I had flown back to New York. I landed at JFK at it was probably around like 3 or 4 in the morning on 9/11. So I had flown over, and I remember that flight because Alan Cummings who's currently on The Good Wife, um, was like he was seated in the first row aisle seat, and I just remember him being on that flight, and I remember coming in over New York. Didn't see the Twin Towers, but saw a lot of how beautiful the skyline is. And got home and went to sleep. I was exhausted, and I was awakened by my sister calling in tears, saying, "I didn't know where you were. I didn't know where you were." I said, "What do you mean? What's the matter?" She goes, "One of the towers has already fallen." And I turned on the TV. I was in the bedroom. I turned on the TV in time to see the second tower fall. And Lois and I um, got the kids out of school. We live near the Long Island Sound, so you could see the Twin Towers from the little beach area where you could walk. And we got the kids out of school. Our neighbors came with us, and we drove to New Hampshire. And it's just, you talk about sense memory. I was saying earlier, I could remember how it felt when I opened the microphone for the first time, my first radio job. This isn't as pleasant at all. It's amazing to me as I tell you the story that I can still remember how unreal it felt. And so we went up, and everybody got their bearings for a few days, but I didn't, like many people, I didn't want to fly again right away, or didn't know if I'd ever want to fly again. And luckily, Whoopi, who I think has gotten over it since, but has a long-standing aversion to flying, her bus, she has sort of a rock star bus that was back east, and and she said, "Why don't you take the bus?" Because she was at her place in Malibu. "Take the bus, come," because we had to tape Hollywood. I had to go back to California, and at that point, I was filling in for Bryant on the early show. My morning show TV days were not yet behind me, but and when they heard that I was going to take Whoopi's bus, they said, would you do stories as you go across country?" Because really, so much of the focus, understandably, was in New York and Pennsylvania and Washington, but the people who also were reeling from this in the middle of the country weren't being heard from as much. And so we did a few stories as we went across country. A crew from the early show, as it was called then, came with me, and I think it was cathartic for all of us. It was just a way to like what we I remember being in a house. I forget where it was. I know I have it in the book because the producer helped jog my memory. But we were in a house watching President Bush give an address to a joint session of Congress after it, and just getting back to do the show. And Whoopi was so amazing with the studio audience before we started taping, talking to them about how important it is to, to be together. We're doing this for you and for us too, because it's part of a healing process. Everybody was gingerly stepping back into the arena of performing. Nobody did it more brilliantly than Letterman, I think. He was your gauge onto when we could make the step back to finding our humor again. And Whoopi did a masterful job that day with the audience and all of us. I mean, she really was sort of our group den mother.